Josh. I am a former Y kid, still a Y kid, just like you all. Went on Y Corps when I was in high school. Tracy and I went together. That's why we're besties now, because of Y Corps. So I'm very excited to be here to talk to you about MobileServe for Y Corps, but honestly I'm even more excited just that you're going on Y Corps because it's an amazing experience. So, who's heard of Y Corps before? Who's heard of MobileServe before? Does anybody have a MobileServe profile?
Yeah. We had to.
That's what everyone said, I know. So, yeah, the first slide here is to create your account, and I'm kind of disappointed I haven't gotten to do that one yet, so, but, I guess it's alright. I'll come back later. So, what we're going to go through is make sure you all are good to go on MobileServe, because that's how you're going to log your 50 hours between now and June 1st, okay? And then we're going to make sure you're affiliated with all the right organizations as well, because there's a really specific way this has to be done for Y Corps, and it would be very sad if you did 50 hours of service and it didn't get logged in MobileServe for Y Corps. No. It'd still be cool because you did a lot of great work, but it'd be really confusing to like everyone involved. You didn't log it right, so we're going to make sure you know how to. Then we'll go over logging, sharing photos, verifying, and some social media stuff. Okay, so we're going to make sure you're affiliated with the right organizations. So there should be, by the end of this, you should be affiliated with 3 organizations on your profile, and this is how you're going to log all of your hours. So there's a different kind of question you have to answer for each one when you think about your service, and this is going to really help Tracy know what type of service you're doing, what you're spending your 50 hours doing, but also it'll be really nice because it'll help you as you're filling this log out reflect a little bit on what you did, why you're serving, how it was impactful to both the community and to you as an individual. So a lot that you'll get out of doing this, even though it might be more than you're typically used to when logging service hours. So to log in hours, I'm sure you all know, you pull up your profile, whether it's on a website or on the app, and there will be a little button down here which you can't see, but it's a blue circle with a plus sign in it to add your hours. Get it? It's a plus sign. So to add your hours, click on that button. It'll take you to this next page where you can either select to check into a special event, which this is for literally just that, a special event, so you probably won't be using that a whole lot. For more of your day-to-day service, getting your 50 hours that you're logging, you go down here and click enter service hours and locations. On the app, first you'll be taken to this screen where you'll enter the date and the number of hours. If needed, you can always backlog. So go up and select a previous date if maybe you forgot to log them right after your service. However, I would highly encourage you to log them as soon as you are done with your service, because you freshen your brain, you can do it, get it done with, you don't have to think about it later, and it'll already be in the system. It takes about like a minute to do, let's be honest. That's the point of this, so it's quick. Enter the number of hours you've done, and then it'll be taken to this page, and this is really, really important that all this is filled out correctly. So, the first one here is the service organization, where you volunteer. So this is not the Kentucky YMCA, this is not Y Corps, this is not anything else like that. This is the nonprofit or the site where you were doing your service for these 50 hours. So it could be Humane Society, Habitat for Humanity, Soup Kitchen, whatever it might be, but really important to make sure that this is the site or the nonprofit where you were volunteering. A couple things to note here. One is that for those of you who've used this before, and logged that service location or service org, once you start typing, I'm sure you know it'll give you suggestions. You like click on one, so if you start typing, Habitat for Humanity, as you enter in letters, different suggestions will come up. So that's mainly to make it easier, so you just click on one and be like, yep, that's the one I want. But also keep in mind, if you're doing something on here that you're entering it that's not in that suggestions list, so nothing pops up, that's okay. Just keep typing out the full name of the organization you're with, and it'll still stay in this log. Some people like panic because there's like no suggestion there, and they're hopeless and throw their phone out the window and run the opposite direction or something.
Did that happen to you, Josh?
It's a not. It's a not. Level personal connection. Yeah, maybe. We're not going to talk about it though. Yeah.
What happens if you aren't doing it with the service organization?
Good question. So, like, you mean you're doing,
Like,
yeah, so if you're not doing it with a specific organization, so maybe tutoring, or maybe you're raking the leaves for your elderly neighbor or something. I would say enter in here whatever is most appropriate. Even though you don't have to put a certain organization, because obviously that's still service, but just put what feels appropriate. So maybe tutoring at my neighbor's house or something like that. But the reason there's all these other components below is so that if one part, like the service org, is a little bit vague, Tracy can still look through and see the full details of the service you've done. So take your best guess. I don't think that'll make or break any of these logs based on what's in there, but just be as specific as you can. So the next piece, so once we're done here, I said you'll have 3 of these organizations that you're affiliated with, at least. You might have more for other stuff you're doing. But the 3 that this will consist of, one is, we'll say Service to the Midwest. Okay, one will say Service Impact Area dash your high school. And then the third one will say, I think it says your high school student-wide. So name your high school and student-wide. So those are the 3 that will pop up here, and we'll get you affiliated at the end. But each of these serve a different purpose in telling you a little bit about what you were doing through your service. So making sure each of these are filled out is required. Otherwise, your service won't count. You'll have to go back and do this again, and that's not necessary. So the first one is chapter activity. So this will be under the name of your high school student-wide. There's a few options here that are chapter development activity, chapter service, collaborative service, individual service. So individual service is just that. It's service you're doing on your own, you could be with a group of friends, but it's not related to your student-wide, it's not related to anything else. Just on Saturday, okay, we want to go do some service at the Humane Society, maybe. Collaborative service is maybe your student-wide is doing something with another student-wide, but it's a formal service opportunity, not just like you and a few buddies from other student-wides go on a Saturday to volunteer. This is something that's formal, like a coat drive or something along the big sale, something along the chapter development activity. The first one is anything with your student-wide.
Great.
Yeah, I have one. And then chapter service. Oh, so the first one has to do with like Y cards and stuff. The chapter service, from what I was told, is like KOA, Kuna types of stuff. Next is the service impact area. So this is a big list here, which is made up of all of these categories. So this really gets at the type of service you were doing. Like what issues does your service affiliate with? So animal welfare, community safety, education, mentoring, environment sustainability. So with both of this one and the previous one, if you're not quite sure, particularly with these, there could be some overlap. Make your best guess, okay? Again, I don't think it's going to necessarily make or break any of these logs, but just get you to think a little bit about what you're doing. The third one, Y course. So 2 options here, pre-trip service and on-trip service. Hope I don't have to explain that, otherwise you might be in the wrong spot. So the next piece here is telling your story. So this is one of my favorite components of MobileServe because what?
It's also the longest statement.
It is, but it still doesn't even take that long. But I love it because most of the time when you fill out what you're doing for service opportunities, you get the hours, the date, the location, stuff like that, which is all wonderful and needs to be tracked. And you can easily do it here. But what's great about tracking this is that it really gets at the full experience of the service you were doing. So it allows you to reflect a little bit more on what you were doing, the populations you were serving, impact you made, and also what you got out of the service and how it impacted you. So that will be done after you complete those 3 boxes. This big text box down here will be where you enter that information. Just type it in on your phone or on the website on your computer, and some questions to consider while entering that. So what was the activity you completed? How do you feel you impacted the community you served? How are you impacted by your service? And if you participated in a collection, like a drive of some sort, how many items were collected and by how many people. So, this is required. You have to fill this box out, but Also, be detailed in what you're writing here. So, it's just a couple sentences. I know that Tracy will deny it. So make sure it is, you don't have to write like a novel, but like a, solid paragraph there about what you were doing is appropriate. If you're unsure if it's enough, then maybe just write a little more just in case. Any questions about that? Dalton, do you have a question?
Not yet.
Good. The next we get to the verification features. So there's two ways that you can verify the service you're doing. So basically this is by talking with someone at the nonprofit or the site where you volunteered, and they'll basically check off and say, yep, you were actually there doing the service you did. So first way you can do that is through email verification. So this box here, these two boxes, one says supervisor name, the other says supervisor email. You enter their name and email, and they get an email with all of the contents of this log. They can either approve it or reject it. Typically they'll approve it. If they ever reject it, they have to give you a reason why. So maybe you just entered the wrong number of hours or something like that, little typo. And if they reject it, you get a notification. So when you submit these for verification, you'll know if it's rejected, so you don't ever have to think twice about it. But really important here, this supervisor is the person you worked with while you were serving. So whether it's a nonprofit, if it was someone you were tutoring, maybe their parent, if it was your elderly neighbor's house, maybe your elderly neighbor, I don't know, whoever it might be. But the point being, this is not anyone on my staff, this is not Tracy, this is not, who are the captains in here also? Okay, it's not your captains, don't send this to them. Nonprofit, site where you volunteer. All right, photos and friends. So are you all friends with each other in here, in real life?
What was it?
Or on MobileServe?
I didn't hear you.
Are you friends with each other?
Yeah.
Okay, well then you should be friends with each other on MobileServe too. So what you can do is add each other as friends, and this is really cool because you can see the photos that everyone else has been sharing, different service opportunities they've done as they've gotten to this 50-hour mark, and it's a really nice way to not only keep up to date on all the happenings, but also to encourage each other and support each other as you're doing this service leading up to June 1st. So to do that, you just go to friends, type in the names, and add people. The other feature here is photos, which I love because this gets at being able to share the full experience of your service and not just the number of hours or the location and the date. So you can attach photos here, and when you log this service log, then that photo will stay there. So everyone can see that if you allow them to. Tracy can see it when she's going through to approve these. But what's even cooler is that you can share it directly onto social media. So Facebook, Twitter can be shared directly through there. And this is really important because there's two reasons why people serve. Don't know what they are, or two main reasons, not two, but two main reasons. So there's two reasons. One is two main reasons. One is because the person cares about the organization, the mission that they're serving under. Okay, and the other reason is because someone's asked them to. So a lot of people go serve because they know someone who's going, they go with a group of people, and someone's asked them to come with them. And this gets at why sharing photos is really important. We call it, in MobileServe, kind of humble bragging a little bit about the work you're doing. And what that does is it kind of creates this ripple effect. Once you put it on social media, share it in your network, people are going to see that, be encouraged by the service work that you're doing, and either ask you about it, and if they can come with you next time, or just be encouraged and go serve somewhere on their own. What we're trying to do at MobileServe, and what I know you all are trying to do as well, is create a culture of service within a community. Whether that's your high school, or that's your city, or whether it's the state of Kentucky, or wherever in the Midwest you will be going. That's something in both of our missions that we share. So I really encourage you to share any photos that you are comfortable sharing, keeping in mind two things. And that is the confidentiality and privacy requirements that are with the organization where you're serving. So maybe if you're working with children, asking their parent or asking the supervisor that you're working with, it's okay to share photos of them before, we'll take or share photos of them before you actually do so. All right, any questions about any of that before we move on? Yeah.
So if someone does a drive, and I know in the story section it was the items collected and how many collected and everything, but how do they list that as an hour when they go to first log it?
I understand your question correctly, so you
Yeah.
would,
Like you mentioned,
So-
like what do you put as
Total service hours.
total service hours?
still the number of hours, well, I don't know, actually, that's a good question. So what I would do is, the number of hours you spent on it. So if you were like standing beside, the donation box for your free period or something, trying to get people to come up and donate or whatever, I would list that amount of time.
I've also heard like doing like a ratio of like if you got like 25 cans for your food drive, that can equal to like half an hour or something like that, or something like that.
Yeah, there might be a more specific answer that you could ask Tracy. I'm just not positive. Yeah.
Olivia last year at the seminar, and then like this summer we had like a think tank for a bunch of students in Mobile to talk about MobileServe. She said that setting a precedent was important. So like if you were doing water step, you just like as a club or like as like the Y as a whole would just be like 10 pairs of shoes equals 1 hour or like something like that. So just like setting that precedent and making it standardized was the most important part of that.
Okay.
So we should probably find out from Tracy those
Yeah.
organizations for this.
Yeah. Good question, though. Any other questions?
Okay, if you were doing service with an organization that's out of the country and you can't geo-verify and it'd be really hard to get into contact, but there are people at your school who were there to witness the service, could you use them as your contact instead of the people at the nonprofit?
Well, the service has to be from the time that you applied to one.
Well, it was.
It was?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
We're
from the day you
trying to
applied.
set the precedent of doing, we encourage people to do it from
today.
from institute onward, rather than doing it from when you apply, because I applied in October, and other people applied in December, and that would give me an advantage.
Yeah, but
So
I was gonna do other hours on top
Yeah.
of it, but it was just like a really cool opportunity for you
Yeah.
guys to include.
I definitely would just make sure, just check with Tracy, any questions.
Yeah. Good question. And also, something else I forgot to add that you maybe think of. Did I talk about the signature portion of this, or did I forget that?
You forgot it.
I did, okay, so you can only do this on the app with the touchscreen, but there's a button that'll be right around here that'll say get signature. You can also use that as a form of verification, so the email and the signature, the supervisor signs directly on the touchscreen.
So like, okay, if I'm logging into a service project that I did, like, it was 3 hours and I was picking up trash on the side of the road. And then like I write about what I learned, what I did, the impact, I put it there, and then I send it to the person who supervised that, and they like check it off, and then it counts into the app.
So is your question, when does it start counting?
Yeah, it count, like I have to send it to them to get it verified before it counts. That 3 hours of me picking trash counts.
Yeah.
It shows up in your total after you log it, but like it can't like officially count until they.
So like Tracy's not gonna check it off to go to my 50 hours until it's been verified by that supervisor.
Right, so there's two kind of levels of approval needed. One is by the supervisor you're working with while you're serving, and the other in this case is Tracy. So the supervisor approves it, Tracy will look at your whole log, including that approval or denial potentially, and then she will either approve or deny your log. And what I would look at is to know how far along you are for these 50 hours is you go to the activity button there, and at the top there's something you just introduced called goals, and Tracy set it so that you have 0 to 50, it's a bar, and it will move along as you get more hours, but it will not add an hour to that until Tracy approves your whole log. That might be a good kind of place to look
To see where I'm really at.
to see where you're really at. Yeah.
Okay.
But if
and
you
then
know
it
you've done-
notifies me if it gets denied, right? Like if she denied it, just
Yeah.
denied it, or they didn't verify it.
Correct.
Okay.
Great question. Yeah.
What if the supervisor just like never looks at the email?
Yeah.
I would do.
Just never clicks on it.
I'd just follow up with them, I guess. Hopefully that won't happen.
Also, if you have that like type of experience or type of situation, just email Tracy and explain the situation to her, and she'll most likely be.
But how does signature work? Do they just sign it on your phone?
Yes.
Yeah, with their finger.
I'll just do that. I'll be like, here, sign it.
So, but yeah, but that's why it's really important to do all of this immediately after you're done serving. So cases like that hopefully don't happen, so that the site supervisor knows to expect it. You can let them know that it's coming.
So if there's a technical error with signature, we really need to know.
Sure. Why not?
At first.
I think
All right, so the,
Email
do you have any other questions?